I would like to tell you a little story about me experimenting with A-Frame. How many of you already tried virtual reality? OK, impressive. WebVR? OK. How many of you tried developing for virtual reality? A few, OK. Looks nice. OK. So let's start with the devices, because the usual approach is that you have to test virtual reality on something. The good news are you don't need an expensive hardware. You can test VR with a cardboard or any plastic viewer for like $15 each or something like that. It's cool to be able to test games or applications using expensive hardware, but it's not needed. A quick recap, what is WebVR? So it is the ability to show something in 3D, in virtual reality, inside the browser, get the input from the controllers, and be able to send the output. And why would you choose WebVR? Well, you already know JavaScript, so it's very easy to dive into that and try virtual reality. There is a demo you can try. It's called Seheld. If you have a smartphone or any other device, you can try the demo and see the progressive enhancement of building something for the web. So you can test this little demo on a phone. It can be played with a cardboard and can be played on huge and expensive virtual devices. I have a few cardboards. So who would like to try the demo with the cardboard? Sorry, guys, back there, but next time sit closer to me. Yeah, let's just. OK. Sorry about that. Woo! OK, the last one, like. Sorry. So basically, this is just a piece of cardboard that you can quickly mount, put your smartphone in, close it, and ta-da, you have a very sophisticated device to watch virtual reality. It even works. So that's cool. OK. So you would wonder about the browser support. It's pretty good. We're getting there. You could have noticed Samsung Internet, which is working on with the Gear VR. It's a really cool piece of software, surprisingly, but it works nice. So there are more and more devices, browsers that support WebVR, which is really cool. In latest Firefox, it was enabled by default on desktop. It works on Mac OS X, so that's pretty cool. The documentation status is still a draft, because it's still an experimental thing, but it works. So if you would be interested in knowing if it's actually ready to develop something, there is a website called WebVR Rocks where you can see the exact information which devices are supported where. It's even supported in Servo with the dog icon, which is awesome, by the way. OK, so I'm going to talk about A-frame, but before we move on to A-frame, I would like to mention the WebVR itself a bit. So to actually start developing, you had to use a lot of boilerplate code, have so many things written to even launch a basic site, basic 3D experience. Well, actually, you don't have to anymore because A-frame does that for you. So one thing you have to remember is that one HTML tag, because A-frame is just about throwing a bunch of HTML-like tags into your index.html. The A scene generates most of the stuff for you. So for example, there is this nice-looking cube in 3D. You can move around with cursor keys. There is a light, a camera, and everything else. So it would be like, I don't know, 100 of 3JS code to make it work, or even more. So how many lines it would be with A-frame? What do you think? OK. So it's a few lines of HTML from which basically only one is important, beside the A scene. I know the example is quite small, but so basically everything around the cube is generated by A-frame. So the only thing we have written is the A cube with the color, position, and rotation. And that's it. And we already have our cube on the scene. So A-frame have the entity component system. We don't have to write everything ourselves. There are plenty of entities and components that are either by default available in the A-frame itself, or you can download them and use them in your gamer application. You can use attributes to those components, so you can write something inside the HTML tag. And there is the registry of A-frame components, so you can look up and see for something you would need for your gamer application, like collision detection or whatever, animations, fonts, etc. Everything is there. And remember that this is just pure JavaScript. I mean, the A-frame gives you the ability to quickly prototype something with HTML, but you can write the JavaScript itself. You can create stuff using JavaScript, set the attributes, append newly created component to the scene, and that's it. It just works. So there is the shapes demo. A little bit more complicated than the previous one, in which the demo is using the animations, which also can be created by defining the A animation component or writing the JavaScript by hand. So that's the demo. It's not very impressive, but it works. But the cool thing is, if you look at the source, if you're able, then it's basically that. You don't need much overwriting to have something shown on the screen. So it's very cool to prototype, to create something quickly, to see if something could work. So I am a game developer. I'm working on 2D games. So my level of expertise in 3D is -1. So even myself was able to build something in 3D, which is very impressive. So I've built the A break, not a demo because it's not yet working, but it's there. But the cool thing is, I was able to do that So if you have like zero experience with 3D, you can start building 3D games and experiences in the browser already, because it's just pure JavaScript. There is the helpful inspector to help you along the way. If you launch it with Control Alt and E, it will give you some tools that will allow you to edit the scene, add something, test something. It's not a full-blown editor, but you are also able to export some stuff from the inspector. So you can actually model something inside that. You can't actually save it, but you can export stuff and import. Like it just copies stuff, so you can just paste it in your game and application. So it's pretty cool. So let's look at the showcase. There are many demos and experiments already created. There is the A-Painter, which is like painting in 3D, which looks strange here, but like people who are trying WebVR for the first time, they were like, oh, painting in 3D, it probably sucks. But like after painting for 15 minutes, laying on the ground because they have to paint that from the bottom, it was like, dude, come on, there is a huge line. So it's interesting to see how immersive this can be. So if you have the ability to try it, definitely try it. There is, of course, for game devs like me, some more game-related demos. You can shoot at emojis, because why not? Of course, you need controllers, but still, it works pretty nice. You can also dance. That's one pretty interesting, because it records your movement, and then you can play it to your friends, or someone can send you their dancing, and you can dance together in virtual reality, because why not? Yep. Of course, there are other demos and experiments, more serious ones, like traveling to Mars and trying the Mars rover on the surface of the planet. You can build cities, throw stuff. I'm not sure if it's Lego or Minecraft or whatever, but it works pretty nice. You can visualize data. It's a totally new experience to visualize something in 3D and be able to edit it live. That's pretty cool, for me at least. You can also try the augmented reality. There is the AR.js library, which works pretty nice with A-Frame. So you can actually try augmented reality with A-Frame directly. It also works pretty nice. It's optimized for mobile. So even if you don't have the top-notch smartphone, it will still work pretty good. If you're looking for more experiences, for more demos and experiments to look into the source code, there is a week of A-Frame run by the A-Frame team at their blog. I highly recommend to check that. OK, so over the last months, we were showcasing some experiments at the conferences. And there are things more or less surprising that we learned. For example, WebVR, or virtual reality in itself, it's a brand new medium. So basically, having keyboard and mouse won't work. I mean, it will, but it's not in the core of the experience. We will have so many new possibilities to create something with controllers, with device orientation. There are so many tools, and we are still at the level, on the stage of experimenting. So it's really cool to see some new ideas popping up, and maybe if you will come up with something interesting enough, maybe it will be used by like millions of users in the near future. So it's pretty interesting opportunity. Of course, you have to remember about the motion sickness. The first demos ever of WebVR were the roller coasters, which wasn't the best idea because like 8 out of 10 people were going to puke after trying the demo, which wasn't helping spreading the technology all over the place. So the thing is, it's better to have the scene defined, but keep the movement to the player. If somebody wants to look around, he will do it, but don't change the camera position by yourself. Because then someone have the time to look around, see stuff, and try it before puking. So it's a good idea to do that. So this new medium was, everybody who was trying the demos were told that it's actually 360. We were showing some 360 videos. But people were like standing or sitting in front and looking at the videos, and they were like, cool, yeah, cool. So we explicitly had to tell them, look behind you, or look down or up. And they were like, whoa, I'm flying a helicopter. I'm on the top of the drone. Oh, that's awesome. So basically, knowing about 360 experience and like experiencing it, it's totally different thing. It's really interesting to see someone like already knew about 360 and were learning about all the environment in every possible direction, which is really cool. And the thing we noticed is that you don't need like the best possible visual graphic. You don't have to have the best experience in terms of visuals, because what is more important is the immersion, feeling inside of something. So frame rate is more important than graphics in this specific case, because the most important demo was really pixelated face, which you could manipulate with lip motion. So you could like use your fingers, your hands, to manipulate the head, the face. And it was ugly. It wasn't like, it didn't look like a real face, but the experience was so immersive that people voted this the best thing they were trying at the booth, which is kind of surprising, but the most important thing is that if you're able to be inside the experience, totally forget about the outside world, it will be so immersive that you will just dive into it, forget about everything else, and it will really feel almost real, even though the graphics weren't perfect. So that feeling of being inside is really, really important to have good experiences out of your games or demos. There is also the JS13K Games competition that the 6th edition ended a few days ago, in which there was the A-frame category. So basically it's a competition in which you have to create a game in 13 kilobytes. This year there was the A-frame category. So you had the A-frame library free, and then you could create something with 13 kilobytes of code. We had like 28 different games submitted out of like 254, if I remember correctly. So it's nice to see people experimenting with A-frame and having like 3D visualization of hacking something in cyberspace, because why not? Or like throwing coconuts on crabs on a desert island, because you can. Almost. There was the polyhedron runner where you had to like tilt your head to point to the empty space. Yeah, I suck at this. Well, it's a lot easier in VR, but what? What is that? Oh, come on. I had like 20 points or so. It's definitely a lot easier in VR. Hey, where's the hole? Oh, come on. Dude. Anyway, it works in the cardboard. You can, oh, whatever. Somebody actually built this. Like, you are moving on in the 2D world in 3D environment, because why not? And there are monsters and pots with goals and everything. In 13 kilobytes, okay. But I think this is my personal best. I think it's the first ever flea VR simulator. So you're a flea on a body, and you can jump and suck blood, and I hope it works. Oh, please work. Come on. Why are you not working? Work. Work. So here is the screenshot of the face of the lady on top of which you are jumping and sucking blood out of her. But it's totally safe for work. She has a bikini, so that's fine. Work. Please work. Why are you not working? Dude, come on. Work. Yes. Okay. So there are two people. Okay, that's nice. So you can actually jump, and at some point you can suck blood, because why not? And that's pretty crazy, but it works. Yeah, I would say don't try this at home, but yeah, people are crazy. So basically, you can actually experiment with that stuff, and we are at the stage where there are so many cool small demos and experiments. Somebody is brave enough or crazy enough to try to implement that on production, or make some more complicated games and visualizations for clients, and somebody will actually even pay them for that. So it's pretty crazy and interesting time when you, JavaScript developers, can actually try that and create something that will be brand new. The A-frame registry still needs a lot of components, so you can create something simple, a component that will be in the registry, which will be then used by millions of other people around the world. So if something won't work correctly, you will be blamed for that. But still, so I think it's a pretty interesting time to be able to experiment with that. So I highly recommend trying A-frame. There are a few websites you can visit to see more information about A-frame and WebVR in general. And I encourage you to try it, build something, and see what happens. If I can build something in 3D, you can also build something in 3D. I hope to see something. If you do build something, please send it to me so we can all laugh about it. OK, thank you.
So the question is pretty simple. In your experience, we have some other kind of frameworks, like I know Unity, for example. So in your experience as a game developer, you can develop in both 2D and 3D in Unity, and you have all the crazy stuff with integrating it with, I don't know, sell this game on the Android, market or Apple Store or whatever. And thus, A-Frame gives you this kind of, full set of possibilities to go somewhere else with this game, like, further.
Well, it's in the web.
Well, no, it's
so
not
it's one
13
thing,
kilobytes.
But I know Unreal and Unity both exports to HTML5. And I know they have VR plugins. So if you want to build something in Unreal or Unity in virtual reality, you should be able to export that to the web, and it should work. I'm not exactly sure if, I don't think it's A-Frame, but it's definitely WebVR. A-Frame is just a library on top of, well, just a library on top of 3JS. So as long as Unity and Unreal exports to whatever now there is,
yeah, that's like what I meant.
WebAssembly or something, it should work. I mean,
it does, and it supports VR already. So
okay,
that's,
awesome.
So it's like, is A-Frame any better in something apart from the fact that it's?
It's different.
Okay.
It's different because it's with A-Frame you are targeting, or it's more for people less experienced with 3D modeling or hardcore game development, like development for native platforms. It's very easy to experiment with A-Frame and build something like in few minutes. Something very simple. Of course, if you're experienced with 3JS, you can, or other tech, you can build something on top of A-Frame, or you can use A-Frame but write something on your own. So I would say it's just different experience. You can build something with Unity exporting to WebVR with A-Frame. It just depends on your approach.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so I have a question about the API, because I saw that the position of the element is a string built of 3 numbers. So if I wanted to change the y, I would have to read this string, split it, change the y, concatenate it, and set it again.
No.
Is there a faster way to do this?
Well, you can access it directly. I mean, if you have an object, you can just change the x value, and that's it. It will just work.
Okay, so it's accessible directly. Yeah. Okay, that's fine. So can I have another?
Sure.
So about events, are there any events in A-Frame, like object becomes visible, or?
Yes, absolutely. I haven't experimented with that much, but you have a whole bunch of different events that you can hook into or control, send your own events. So it is fairly easy to use events and get those sent by some components. So yeah.
Okay, thanks.
More questions?
Okay, so the next question about the input devices, because if you are using Oculus or Vive, it's easy because they're really shipping it with input devices. But what about the mobile devices? Because there is no default input for a mobile device, especially that the demo with painting stuff.
Yeah, so the painting demo won't work in the cardboard because you really need the controllers. It will work with the hardware that have actually some controllers. But if you notice the held demo at the very beginning, it's built in a way that whatever you have, it will work there. I mean, you can test the held demo on the desktop and look around with keyboard and mouse. it could work on a mobile phone. So you can use the device orientation to look around the scene. Then you can put it in the cardboard, enable, like enter VR mode and just look around with the same device orientation. But you can also launch the health on $3,000 expensive hardware with controllers and everything, and it will also work. So it's just a matter of remembering about various devices people can have or don't have, and working on your game or application in a way that it will just enhance for better hardware, but will work on like crappy smartphones.
I have a question. How is looking importing objects from 3D Studio or Maya and other 3D softwares? Is there a possibility?
Yes, absolutely. I haven't tried that myself yet, so I have no idea how that works exactly, but I already saw it in action and somebody was already trying that. It works. If you Google for how to do it, you will probably find a tutorial or two. So it just works.
Did you ever have an experience with React VR, and how does it compare?
Haven't tried that yet. I was thinking about trying it, but I heard it's a little bit more complicated to try rather than A-frame. I would probably try and guess that it's between A-frame and Unity in the level of expertise you need to try VR. It sounded like something really interesting to try. Haven't done that myself. If it works, if you know React, go for it. It should be probably easier for you to try React than Unity. I have no idea what would be about the A-frame, maybe similar experience. You should definitely try it.
Thank you.
Thank you.